The technology trends in the SMB tend to flow down from the enterprise and not up from the home. And typically, what goes on is that some fancy new technology is extremely complicated, extremely expensive, and Cisco convinces a couple of Fortune 100 companies to deploy it, and then they say, okay, well now we've built those customers out of millions. Now let's do a version that we can sell to the Fortune 500, and then gradually things trickle down. So our challenge at NETGEAR is always to track those trends and see what we can do that makes sense for the SMB, that has the right complexity, i.e., so the other way to say it, has the right ease of use for an SMB or a VAR calling on an SMB to deploy, and then also be able to do it at the right price point. One of the things that I've heard Mark say once or twice is, hey, no, anyone can design a 24-port gigabit switch. That's easy. But can you do it for $29.99? That's the real challenge. That's where you really got to get into the meat of the details and really take a look at all the specs. So our challenge is really to translate those enterprise technologies and then create those innovative products for the SMB. Like the Smart Switch, we didn't create any new. Well, okay, we kind of did. Most of all the features that you find in the Smart Switch are features that you find in managed and layer 2, layer 3 switches, layer 2, layer 3. What we did is we were innovated by creating a means of delivering that in a very easy to use, simple package, and we had to do things a bit differently than how you'd manage a layer 2 switch. One of the things we did is we said there's only a web interface on this thing. So from a technology standpoint, that sounds kind of cool, but that creates a slight setup problem. Well, how do you find the switch? Because on these guys, when you set it up, you plug in your console port, you log in with your CLI, and you do a couple of cryptic commands, and you've got an IP address. Well, then you can go plug in your IP address into your browser. Well, this guy, you just plug into your network. What's the IP address?
Okay.
So we created a little program and put some technology and protocol in there so that you can go fire up your computer, launch this little program, and say, oh, here are my smart switches, and then you click on them, and away you go. So we have to be creative around that kind of thing and solving problems around how do we make things simple and easy to use.
Do you have any personal favorite moments, either a product you were responsible for and a challenge you overcame, something within NETGEAR that you're just really, it was a really great moment for you?
Well, there's very few little moments in the sense that one little thing, but like smart switches was an area that I was the product line manager, and I kind of developed that thing, and you can see over the year that we introduced it, it took off, and that was one of our very successful products, not only from a financial standpoint, but just showing leadership in the SMB space. So I'm pretty proud of that one. But there's all kinds of neat stuff, like I launched NETGEAR into managed switches when we did our first layer 2 managed switch, because when I joined we were unmanaged products, firewalls and access points, but then I was the product line manager that got us into managed switches. I was the product line manager that got us into into the layer 3 managed switches when we went there. When I came on board, we were working with our first copper gigabit products. So, I guess over 7 years working at a company, you're going to get a lot of firsts. So, that's fun for me is introducing new technologies like that, not only to NETGEAR but also to SMB customers. So that was back in 2000 that we did our copper gigabit tour when we launched our first copper gigabit switches. And now copper gigabit's everywhere. So
you're the pioneer of copper gigabit Ethernet. Obviously,
see, I told you I was a geek at heart.
It's good. We all like geeks at heart. I'm a geek at heart. With the consumer market, there's obviously a lot. Consumers don't necessarily know what the right products, what are the technologies, right? If I have to get my data online, it's basically I buy him a router and I bring it home. In the SMB space, are there areas that you find that there's a lot of FUD going on, a lot of fear, uncertainty, doubt, things that you have real marketing challenges to overcome?
Well, certainly. I mean, one thing to recognize in the SMB space is that there's a vast difference in SMB customers depending on their size. There's the micro businesses that are 0 to 5 or 0 to 10 users that really behave a lot like home consumers, and they tend to purchase through retail. Then the next segment is kind of 10 to 50, where they're kind of small businesses, and they might have one guy who kind of knows a little bit about networking, but frequently they'll rely on a reseller to really provide them with their network, giving them consulting on how to set it up and in many cases also how to manage it. But networks of those sizes are relatively simple to do, so it doesn't take that much handholding. When you get into 50 to 250, you then start dealing with companies that have someone who's actually a professional IT person, who's paid to know this kind of stuff. So with each of those three categories, you can imagine that there's different products, different fears, different concerns, different uncertainties. A lot of the challenges we face is maybe not fear and uncertainty and doubt, is just market education. Because technologies are changing quickly and some of the things we do introduce are new, it's sometimes a challenge to communicate that out to the market and educate the market that these capabilities now exist. Copper gigabit, smart switches, RN Telefy, wireless, automatic RF management. There's a variety of stuff that we have out there that's just hard to communicate that. So that's a challenge. We just need to make them familiar with them.
At what point is a home grade product simply not going to work for a small business? If I'm a struggling little startup and I've just got my little alpha seed round of funding and I've got 12 people, right? What can't I really get by with anymore? And you can redefine that if that's not the right metric. But
sure.
When do I need to go to get a VAR to come in and help me out?
Well, typically we see that breakpoint somewhere between 10 and 20, where you can set up some stuff, but once you start adding a couple of servers in there, you need Outlook running. You need to start setting up. Also at that stage, you kind of have a greater value to your business, and you have a little more concerns about security and privacy. Whereas when you're a two-person shop, who's going to really spend the time to hack you? What are they going to get out of it?
Right.
But as you get a little bit larger, then you become a little bit more attractive target, and now you're responsible for the employment of 5, 10, 15 people. You want to be a little bit more careful, and given that it's 5, 10, 15 people, you might not know everyone as well as when you were a 5-person shop. So security becomes a little more important, and so the security features that are available on the business products are a little bit more robust, and you can do more things with the routers as well as the switch products and the wireless products as well, to enable a greater security and ensure that those people on your network should be on your network.
So, all right. So I'm going to toss you a little softball,
Okay.
and let's call it 15 seconds. Why should SMB get gigabit networking?
Return on investment. With gigabit, you get 10 times the bandwidth for 2x or less the cost. So anyone deploying a network or expanding one should look at putting out gigabit. All the servers out there have it built in. Most of the PCs have it built in. So putting the infrastructure to support those things just makes sense, and make sure you have the right wired infrastructure for the next 3 to 5 years.
Perfect. Thanks very much.